Hi everyone. Welcome to week 14 of English 2332, spring of 2025. We're getting ready to wrap up this semester. We've got just one major assignment left. That is the play Macbeth. Well, the play Macbeth plus the life and times of William Shakespeare. I think we're going to push the Unit 3 exam back to next week. We'll do that either Tuesday or Thursday of next week. That would be week 15. And then we'll gear up for the final exam, which will be the week following, which what we call the week of finals, which is May 5th through the 8th. It'll probably be that Tuesday, May the 6th. Okay, so let's get back to the play, William Shakespeare. I've opened up a new content tab, all about William Shakespeare, life and times, a little bit of history drama, talk to you a little bit about the play. It really is a fascinating story. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar or not, but it's one of his shorter plays. Plus, it moves really quickly. The only problem that students seem to have reading Macbeth, other than the language of Shakespeare, and you're welcome to read a modern translation if you'd like, but the only problem is the characters. The characters are all Scottish, of course. The play is Scottish, and the names tend to sound alike and run together. Oh, by the way, someone was asking earlier who this little guy is. This is Chocolate the Moose, an old gift from my daughter. So, yeah, so if you'll get those names straight, now I did send you a PowerPoint that has all the names and the relationships. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, King Duncan and his sons, and his other advisors, his thanes. And a thane was a mark of nobility, but not just nobility, because thanes in ancient Scotland were both military commanders and political leaders. So when Macbeth, I got to tell you a spoiler alert here a little bit. When Macbeth is named both Thane of Glamis and Thane of Cawdor, that's really unusual. It's something that just doesn't happen. It would be like being named Governor of Texas and Governor of New Mexico. Just doesn't happen very often. But it definitely puts Macbeth at the top of the pile as far as all the other lieutenants go. And so his ascension to the throne of Scotland makes a little bit more sense, especially when you think about what a powerful hero he was. Read very carefully that captain's description of the battle. I think it's Act 1, Scene 2. Sounds right. And it tells you, the battle was back and forth. The battle was undecided. It looked like we might even lose. And in rides brave Macbeth and his sidekick Banquo. Not really a sidekick, but tells about his daring do and how he turned the tide of battle and saved the day, saved the kingdom, saved the king, just did all this other stuff. And so his appointment to the Thane of Cawdor, or the Thane of Glamis, I'm sorry, he was already Cawdor, is more an emotional reaction by the king to this wonderful news from his captain. You'll notice also several times in the play how generous King Duncan is. It presents a great jewel to Lady Macbeth, and he divides the spoils up. But that's what a good king is supposed to be. Please keep it clear in your mind. King Duncan was a good king. Generous, kind, noble, just all the things that his culture looked for in a great king. He was all that and more, so his murder becomes even more repugnant, even more terrible. Then take a look at how Macbeth changes. Really, one of Shakespeare's greatest feats, one of his acknowledgments, is the evolution of his characters. And we see his characters are motivated and they grow in very realistic manners. Now, when I say character growth, I really mean character change, because Macbeth doesn't improve over time. He actually devolves. He becomes even more greedy, more tyrannical. Look for examples of how he is a tyrant, and he is, and you'll understand the play better. It's really a very simple plot. There are 5 acts, but the acts are very short. Now, can you watch a video? Of course, you can watch a video of this. There are several good ones out there. But I would encourage you to read the play first. Read the play first, because when you watch a video, you're only getting one person, usually the director, that person's interpretation. Lots of times they will leave characters out, they will change scenes, they will reorder the acts in the play. And so, yeah, read Shakespeare's version first. The other thing that you will notice as you learn more about the life of William Shakespeare is he never envisioned his plays being studied the way we study them. He never thought that his plays would be taught in a college classroom. In fact, most of his plays he wrote them down, they acted them out, and then he threw them away. It wasn't until 7 years after his death that somebody went back and kind of found all the plays they could and published them. But yeah, Shakespeare never really thought of his work as being worthy of study. But it is. It's really one of the greatest playwrights in the English language, if not the world. And I hope you enjoy it. It really is an action-filled, it's a kind of a fun play. Lady Macbeth is both a stereotype and an exaggeration of the ambitious female. And when you put it in context, the time and the place when women were supposed to be very humble, very accepting, very subservient to their husbands. And here she is, cracking the whip over this guy, driving him forward, emasculating him. And she even says, boy, if I had this opportunity and to become king of Scotland, and I had a baby, I was nursing a baby, I would bash its brains out against a wall. Which, by the way, is a biblical allusion. Go back and read the Old Testament. But yeah, it's really is a fascinating play. And then look, be sure that you're really clear on how the play ends. You should know who Macduff is, and the end of the play, and Malcolm, of course, comes in. But really interesting, and it's not this thick. My book tends to be a little bit thicker because it's got a big, huge preface and a lot of end notes. And if you want to just print out the link I sent you, you're welcome to do that. But I do encourage you to have a hard copy in front of you because it'll help when you make notes, when you highlight, when you seek to understand the play better. A little bit more about the life of William Shakespeare. We won't even talk about the discussion, the mystery of Shakespeare, who wrote the plays of Shakespeare. We're just going to assume that he wrote the plays. We're not going to worry about whether he was gay or bisexual or anything like that. We're just going to look at his life. He was married at 18 to Anne Hathaway, who was 8 years older, and the marriage may have been a forced one. It may not have been a marriage he chose, because as we look at his plays, we don't see evidence of a lot of happy marriages. Now, is it fair to look at his plays, and if we don't see any happy marriages, can we then safely assume he did not believe in marriage or that he had an unhappy marriage? Well, that's for the experts. That's for you to decide. I personally believe his marriage was an unhappy one, that he didn't spend much time with Anne Hathaway. He lived and worked a long ways away for 20 years in London, and very seldom came home. Even when the theater was closed down, he stayed in London and did a lot of other things. He had a lot of jobs. He was a poet, he was a playwright, he was an actor, he was a director, he was part owner of the theater. That's where he earned most of his money, by the way. And yes, when he was growing up as a little boy, his family were well off, at least rich enough to afford the taxes to allow William Shakespeare to attend school. Not every kid could afford that. When he's about 13 or so, his father, which by the way is an age where your ego and your id is being solidified, but when he's an early teenager, his father loses, through a series of bad speculations, all of his wealth. And so Shakespeare goes from being, upper middle class or lower upper class to being fairly poor. They can't afford to go to school anymore, so he gets basically kicked out of public school. But then, once he reaches maturity, he works very, very hard and earns back his wealth and more. He becomes a gentleman. When he retires, he buys the second biggest house in town. He lives in Stratford-upon-Avon. And then he writes a will, and he leaves just one thing to his wife. Not the house, not the stables, not the orchards, not the horses. Just one thing, and you'll be interested to see what that is. and then draw your conclusions from that. What statement was he trying to make? Be sure to watch the videos. The videos are very helpful in understanding his life and times, and it really was a fascinating life. And the fact that we're still studying it 450 years later, still celebrating it, still talking about it is really a pretty amazing thing. Okay, so go read the play. Break it down into chunks if you want to. It can be easier to take just one scene at a time, even though the scenes are short. Watch a video to supplement what you're reading, what you're understanding. And if you have questions, let me know. Remember, we've pushed the quiz, the third unit exam. We're pushing it back to next week, and then the week after, probably about May the 6th, is the final exam for this semester. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll talk some more later.